This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z. I'm Matt Fonzel, and you know what? Now and then, for no good reason a man can figure out, life will just haul off and knock him flat. If you know what movie that's from, you either really like the classics, your age is definitely showing, or you just went and Googled it quick. I'll elaborate more after we get a word from our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training. NAPA Autotech's team of ASE Master Certified instructors are conducting over 1,200 classes covering 28 automotive topics. To see a selection, go to napaautotech.com for more details. For this week's episode, I'm diving into the mailbag, which is getting to the point where I might have to get Justin Morgan on again or put together some ragtag crew to address. But one I got recently from, we'll just say, Mr. Stringer. What do old mechanics do? Hence the old Yeller reference at the beginning. That's right. We take them out back and we put a bullet behind their ear. It's over. Done. But honestly, that's a really good question, because our profession is really kind of horrible about future planning. It's just something I don't think we think about, and we conveniently forget until it's right there. The quote unquote old, whatever that means. And I think that's a relative statement, because we got Brian Pollock on last week talking about a coworker who I think is in his 60s, maybe even 70s, who's still going. 60s we're probably seeing more of out of necessity for economic purposes. And I'm not necessarily like taking a big shot at our planning for retirement, either as individuals or as a profession. I guess we could maybe a little bit, but I'm also just thinking there's a lot of people in their mid to late 60s still working because they have to. Cost of living, whatever the reason. Not really where I'm going with this. I'm not thinking like retirement, although if you're young right now, that's something you should be thinking about. Getting in touch with a financial advisor, maybe getting your manager or boss involved a little bit to go, what does it look like for me to retire at? And just go through the numbers, 55, 62, 67, whatever it is, 65, pick numbers. What does this look like? What would I have to invest? How much do I have to have taken out of my paycheck? That would be a very, very smart thing to do, especially the younger you are, because time is your most powerful weapon, compound interest. I think more philosophically about what we do within the profession, and you're in and it doesn't matter, whatever, late 40s, 50s, early 60s, you're not ready to retire. You can't retire. So the number itself isn't so important. It's what do you do now? And what if part of the reason you can't work, in the shop as a mechanical specialist, spinning wrenches, is your hands have become arthritic? And how does that affect keyboarding skills? To maybe make a shift to a service advisor. A lot of people's knee jerk is, can you go become a service advisor? The problem with that is it's a catch-22. On one hand, you're bringing with you tons of practical experience. On the other hand, and on the flip side, is you're bringing with you tons of practical experience. It depends on how you use it. And are you a people person? Can you become a people person? Are you willing to throw yourself into that world of customer service? We don't do that. It's kind of good some days to not have to deal with people. I know people. I'm married to somebody that deals with people all day, every day, either individually or in groups. It's its own mess. It's its own can of worms. It's its own just beast to deal with. And one, I'm really glad I don't have to. I just have to deal with cars and I suppose some some people from time to time, but it's not something I have to do regularly by any means. I mean, that's terrific for us until we have to think about moving into a position where we now have to deal with the public and not always their best selves. And what do we do with that energy, if you will? And I'm not trying to talk like you hear so often as, oh, they have good energy about them. I'm not even sure what that means. But if they are coming at you with a lot of negativity, frustration, are you equipped to deal with that? And then are we in a position to find out the underlying cause of this negativity and frustration? Is it something the shop needs to address and fix? Because, it shouldn't be that often. It really shouldn't. There was a breakdown somewhere. If you're regularly dealing with clients that are very frustrated, there's something hit the fan, or didn't get done properly. But maybe the subject of another episode. This one is, how do you pivot? My knee-jerk reaction, my personal, is start planning sooner. Start expanding your skill set. Find out what you're good at. Like, we already know you're really good at fixing cars, whatever position you are in the back. I think since we're talking about bodies breaking down, it's probably more the mechanical end of things than technical. I'm not saying it can't be, because depending on what you're doing technically, you might be twisting your body into precarious positions, and now you can't. So that's a real thing. Neck problems, upper back, thoracic type issues. So yeah, cervical, thoracic type issues. That's a real thing. If you're leaning over, testing a lot, your lower back, whatever. There's scenarios where your body can't do it anymore. And what can be done to work around that while maintaining a certain level of productivity. That's just the reality, right? We have to get work done at a given rate. And management has power over that. Don't get me wrong, right? If your production levels are going to drop, the reasons are reasonable, if you will. It's your body is breaking down, and you're just not able to crank that out at quite the same rate, but the quality is still there. And we're not talking like absurd times. Management can tweak rates to offset that a little bit. It's a team effort. And also, if you're kind of pre-planning this, you're working on keyboard skills, you're maybe studying customer service type skills, such as interaction, face-to-face. I'm not the biggest fan of like DISC, but it might be one of the easier personality categorization. I don't even want to call it a theory. Assessment. We're going to go with assessment. It's probably one of the slightly easier ones. The more accurate ones are probably more like Big Five. Again, you would probably delve into this stuff and be able to kind of pick out, what is this client's personality traits? If they're very alpha, how do you respond to that? And you can kind of identify and course correct how you respond to maximize communication with them, learning about what they need from you or from the shop, and respond to them in a way that's pleasing or most palatable to them. So it's something you're starting to do, the earlier the better. Maybe not assuming you won't be able to continue whatever it is you do. We'll just say, being a mechanical specialist deep into we'll just say into your 60s. What can you do? What's other skills can you bring? And then the shop has to be a part of this too, or can be. And part of me is like, they should, especially if you've been involved with them a long time and there's communication, right? Back and forth about what's going on. And can the shop also evolve in such a way to create positions for somebody that's terrific amount of knowledge, tremendous amount of knowledge? How can the shop still benefit from that, as well as you, as well as your coworkers? And is that shifting responsibilities into more of a foreman type role, or maybe it's not like a shop manager, but the foreman, where you're very much interacting with the technicians, mechanical specialists, technical specialists, that you're really the big liaison. You're helping them out with their needs, maybe their training, just on-demand training with them, coaching up young people, mentoring. Maybe that's a role that could be created. Again, management, you working together to find out how does this benefit the shop and remain profitable. You wouldn't be the first shop to do something like that. And it wouldn't have to be at the snap of a finger, right? Things can work their way to where they need to be. They can be evolutionary rather than revolutionary. It doesn't have to happen just so fast. But if your body's starting to break down, you're starting to get treatments or whatever for it, probably a limit to what that treatment can do for you long term, that can be communicated. And then start brainstorming. What benefits the shop, and can it benefit everybody involved? And I think it can. The other roles would be like more pure management, where maybe you're not in the bays, kind of in that more foreman role. You'd be more in an office type role, managing everything, overseeing everything. Your role would be probably much more behind a desk. Is that something you could do? Is that something you want to do? Is it something you can learn to do? And like I said, it's kind of aiming at it sooner. NAPA Autotech training sessions are being conducted day and night in a town near you. This training caters to every level within your organization, be it a mechanical assistant, a mechanical specialist, a technology specialist, or a driver safety calibration specialist. Imagine a one-stop shop training partner in NAPA Autotech that will lead your team to a path to greatness. Autotech's entry-level Build-A-Tech classes convert the untapped potential of your new hires into money-making mechanical specialists. Autotech's higher-level tech update classes introduce specialists to the world of ever-changing technologies, which prevents your shop from getting technologically stagnant. Remember, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. And, turning to the front of the store, the Autotech Service Advisor class is an awesome way to hone your client advocate skill set, ultimately benefiting the customer through an improved vehicle repair experience. But it doesn't stop there. Imagine an electric vehicle class that takes your specialist well past the mundane, yet necessary safety topics. Well, it's here. Autotech's EV Ready training is a week-long curriculum that takes participants through a hands-on experience involving hybrids and electric vehicles. The session kicks off with the use of PPE and proper tooling while touching on required OSHA regulations. Then, the students dive into the lab vehicles to gain knowledge of the common high-voltage components on EV and hybrid vehicles and their function. Attendees will be taken on a path exposing them to different electric vehicle manufacturers to compare component form and location. Additionally, information about Level 1 and Level 2 charging systems will be included, along with a quick look at DC to DC charging. The operation and maintenance of subsystems are explored, including the different modes of Tesla operations, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Commit to taking your business to the next level with NAPA Autotech training. Or I suppose I skipped over a whole possibility is training and studying to get better and better at the technical side. And as the shop needs somebody that can kind of focus more on the technology, and that might be easier on your body, much more diagnostics. Can you bring in other services that maybe you currently don't have that could be expanded on, that again would free you of the more heavy line type work? Keys, key cutting, key programming, maybe even like fuel injection type services, going around to the shops and offering some sort of bench testing, using like a flow bench of various injectors. Port fuel, the cost of entry is not too terrible. GDI, I think to have like the right and quote unquote right machines, it's got a higher cost of entry. But shops sitting there, injectors aren't cheap. They're not really sure if it's going to fix it. For a much smaller sum for you to test those injectors dynamically, would they send them out to you? And how about if shops are doing a lot of heavy line stuff where they're pulling engines, doing a lot of timing chains, some services, cylinder heads, where the injectors are right there another service of, hey, while we have all this apart, we're going to be doing all this work to your car. We can pull the injectors, send them to you or your shop, of course, themselves doing it, to get flow tested, balanced, if you will. So cleaned, balanced, finding out that when we pulled these injectors, we had upwards of 20% variance. No real complaints from the client. Maybe it idled a little rough. Maybe if you drove around with a scan tool, you'd see it picking up misfires randomly, a little bit here and there. Never enough to really code. And by that, I mean not enough to code, but maybe not just quite right. And of course, we're talking about, pulling a cylinder head for whatever reason. Let's just say that's not the reason it was doing this. What if it was the injectors? And then with this additional service, you can see before and after. Now they get in that vehicle and it hasn't run that good since they bought it or since it was new, or it's as long as they've owned it, it's never run that good. So are there other services that are less stressful on your body that could be added and still help the shop make money off you being there? Again, profit pays everything. And I think if we just keep that in mind, if we're all aware of that and accept that and work to maximize that ethically, that helps everyone. That makes these conversations easier. When everybody's coming to these conversations in good faith, it should make it so much easier from everyone's point of view, everyone's perspective. That should make this conversation so much easier. I would think everyone's effort to make it happen that much more likely. And then just, if you're garnering more and more of the diagnostics, programming, stuff like that, that's usually a little bit easier on your body over time. And if you can get pretty good at it, and now you've got other techs starting to get up in whatever age to start teaching them so that as they may encounter physical limitations, that they can pivot as well. So I know a lot of these suggestions aren't quite as messy as the taking the tech to the woodshed. It's stuff to think about and stuff to converse about and just start preparing for sooner rather than later. Because I know I've said it multiple times. Many of you are one twist away. You don't know when it's going to happen. I've known people mechanics that were just absolutely machines. They're in their 50s. They're in really good shape. They're cranking hours. And then there's that one day. They don't even really know what they did. They just lifted wrong, twisted wrong, moved wrong. And that was it. It was over. And they didn't have anything to fall back on. The shop didn't have any sort of a plan for them. And then they're grasping. And that sucks for everybody. It sucks for the shop. It sucks for everybody that worked for the shop. It sucks for, of course, the individual, because now what do they do? And don't get me wrong. I feel pretty darn strongly that many of your skill sets translate to other fields quite well, making you very valuable. In certain cases, sometimes enough to get poached. Different conversation. I don't think that's the way I don't know that you rely on that. Especially now where it just seems like compensation packages for techs, mechanical and or technical specialists, are starting to get to where it's more and more difficult to just say, screw it. I'm going to go drive a truck. Screw it. I'm going to go drive a forklift. As fun as that would be, that job probably is not going to take care of you like your current mechanical or technical specialist job. And maybe that's not the case and you're screaming at whatever listening device you are that I'm full of it, and you're probably right. But I do know, not just our shop, but just interacting with people at trade shows and emails and just around town even, that everybody's salaries, compensation has been going up. And it's starting to get harder and harder to find one of those escape careers, which is in general for our profession is good. I hope stuff keeps going up for everybody. But on the flip side, if something happens that you're not set up for or have no plan, well, then that really sucks, because now what? So I think just the big idea here is something to be thought about as early as you can. Expanding my skill set outside of fixing cars. Or if I'm really focused on the wrench turning, the heavy line, take it apart, put it back together, can I start expanding my skill set on the diagnostic end? Can I make that to where I can get more of that work and remain productive and keep evolving, so that if something were to happen, that's an option? And I guess I hate to throw these caveats out, but it's the truth. If for some reason I couldn't diagnose cars anymore, but I could still take it apart and put it back together, I don't think I'd ever be that good at it. It's just something I've never really done, and certainly nothing I ever cared to do. So, I know that's kind of an opposite course correct. I wouldn't fool myself into thinking like, well, this is something I can just shift gears and, I'll learn to bang out hours. Maybe I could, but I just don't see it. And that's a certain reality is maybe it won't be something you can be really good at, but you can always be better than you are. Keep working at it. There's so many resources out there. Of course, NAPA Autotech training, Scanner Danner, great resource, other entities, training companies out there. You have the ability to watch John Thornton, I think almost every other month online. Doesn't really get much better than that. You can find links to that on Automotive seminars, and that can definitely complement your other sources. And then trade shows, of course. I should say training expos, getting out there and networking, and then thinking about, or not just thinking about it, starting to pick up more and more information on customer interactions, personality assessments, phone etiquette. How can I run 3 lines and have a customer standing in front of me? That is a terrific skill set that you could develop. Have that in your back pocket. In shops, I would hope management would be willing to help you develop that, especially as things go on. Maybe in your 20s, they're not so excited about doing that, especially if you're able-bodied and all that. But now you're in your 30s, late 30s, early 40s. It's like, hey boss, I think I'd like to start taking some management training or advisor training, customer service training. I think they should be open to that. Just on the, the possibility of needing to do that course correct, needing to pivot, just in case. That is really my advice, is start planning now. And if the time is now that your body is just rejecting you, what is your skill set for diagnostics? What is your skill set for management? Is there a management role you could shift into? And if you own your own shop, one person shop, is there an able-bodied person you can find that can, essentially follow your commands and do what you say, how you say to do it? And then hopefully they start learning, where now they become fairly independent, where you can hand them the keys and the ticket, or, whatever. They look it up on their phone if they will, but hand them the ticket and the keys, and they're good to go most of the time, and then need your help from time to time. Because, come on, nobody knows everything, and allows you the ability to just, run the business or handle the service advising type role until you can bring in a service advisor, and right, you just find yourself as an owner having less to do with the day-to-days, and you're more working on the business than in it. It's something you hear a lot, but it's really the truth. As an older tech, or you've owned your shop now, you were doing all the work, can't really do it anymore. You got to find somebody, and you might have to bite the bullet on someone very young, but hopefully bright, And they don't have to know much, but can they learn? Can they retain? And I can hear some of your guys' thoughts right now, and I sympathize greatly. But most of us were kind of dumb too. Most of us were pretty lost too. And I think I said it in the last episode with Brian. Many of us were learning this stuff when we were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And a lot of the young people, just due to our current society, are not learning this stuff until they're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. And that's the way it is. They just got a late start on this kind of the mechanical aptitude. They just haven't had the exposure. Is dad or mom or the neighbor really fixing their bike anymore? They got a bike a couple of years ago, a pedal bike, broke the chain. Is mom or dad running out to buy a chain or fix the chain? Probably not. Are they going to take it to the bike shop? Nope. Because if they do, the bike shop's going to give them a quote, and they're going to be like, we can buy a new bike like this from Walmart for the same price or a little bit more. There starts the vicious cycle. No pun intended. So on that horrible joke, we'll wind this up. I really thank you all for listening. Thank you for the emails. Thank you for the ideas. Please keep them coming. If you want to be on the podcast, please don't hesitate to send me a message. You can email me at mattfonslopodcast@gmail.com. I'd like to thank my sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training, and also thank the Aftermarket Radio Network. And until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Matt Fonslow, diagnosing the aftermarket A to Z on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Matt on your favorite listening app. He's very interested in what you have to say. Let him know what you'd like him to cover and come on the show. Matt is all for advancing the aftermarket. Find Matt Fonslow on social media and connect or on aftermarketradionetwork.com.